the G7 countries, by the EU, by other countries concerned, to continue to increase the pressure on Russia and any of those who are aiding and abetting its ongoing aggression against Ukraine. That's the case, for example, with regard to Chinese entities that are supporting Russia's defense industrial base. And you've seen us, but you've also seen Europe sanction many of those entities. With regard to North Korea, we've been working together for some time to increase the pressure on North Korea, including through sanctions. But I think what's essential here is this. China has an important role to play in using its influence with the DPRK, North Korea, as well as with Russia, to cease these activities. And in the absence of that, I think one of the things you're going to see is the countries in the Indo-Pacific region, and particularly on the Korean Peninsula, including the United States, including South Korea, including Japan, taking further steps to strengthen our own deterrence and defense capacities. And why is that? Because, as I mentioned before, we're deeply concerned about this two-way street. Not only what North Korea is doing for Russia in its aggression against Ukraine, but what Russia is and may do for North Korea in terms of its missile capacity, its nuclear capacity, all of which increases insecurity and instability on the Korean Peninsula, and will cause us to take further steps, building on what we've already done, to strengthen our deterrence and to strengthen our defense. And these are undoubtedly steps that, while not directed at China, China will not like. So when they are hearing not only from us, but many countries in Europe and from many countries in Asia, the deep concerns that we all have about this relationship between Russia and North Korea, and as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, we, I think, would all look to China to use its influence to try to bring this to an end.
Christina Ruffini with One Decision.
Hi, Mr. Secretary.
Evening.
Do you think the European consensus on support for Ukraine will hold if the next administration pulls back from that effort? Can it survive without the full-throated support of America and particularly the American president? And I know you've been in meetings, I don't know if you've seen the images, but the Beirut skyline is currently littered with smoke plumes from heavy Israeli bombardment. Can you confirm the U.S. was only informed of that operation after it was in progress? And I'm wondering why the U.S. hasn't been able to be more influential in guiding Israel's actions in these conflicts. At this point, does the U.S.-Israel alliance benefit Israel more than it does the United States? Thank you.
Good. Thanks. Let me take the second part first. I'll come to Ukraine and Europe in a minute. I think what you're seeing every day, that is rockets, missiles going in both directions, only underscores how urgent it is to get the ceasefire. And it's why we've been working so intensely on bringing it to conclusion. That's the single most important thing to make an immediate difference, to stop the rockets and missiles from flying, again, in both directions. Yes, we're seeing these attacks in Beirut directed against Hezbollah, but every single day Hezbollah has been launching projectiles into Israel, into northern Israel, as it's done virtually every day since October 7th, which is how this problem started. Again, I'm not going to speak to that. We've been focused on trying to see that this ceasefire agreement gets over the line and gets implemented. That's what's going to make the biggest difference. Look, we've been very clear also from day one that for the United States, we have a number of objectives in the Middle East. One is to make sure that we do everything we can to support Israel in its efforts to make sure that October 7th never happens again. Second, to do everything we can to make sure that the conflict doesn't spread. We don't have more open fronts, more open conflicts, which will simply endanger more lives and more livelihoods and create more suffering. And we've had some significant success in actually doing that, despite many, many challenges and many moments when this easily could have escalated into a regional war. And third has been to do everything we possibly can to help people who are caught in the middle of this horrific crossfire, crossfire instigated by Hamas on October 7th. And that goes to the work that we've done on getting more humanitarian assistance more effectively to people who need it, to trying to get better protections for civilians who are caught in this. And while we absolutely must see more done on that front, it's also fair to say that what we've seen to date would not have happened without U.S. engagement, without U.S. determination. So we're intensely focused on this. We will be till the last day of this administration. On Ukraine and on Europe, look, what I continue to hear, I came from NATO meetings not so long ago, a few weeks ago, G20 meetings, and particularly here at the G7, is enduring European support for Ukraine. I also believe that's reflected in my country because we have a bipartisan majority in both houses of Congress who supported the supplemental budget appropriation for Ukraine. You see support on a bipartisan basis among the public for continuing to support Ukraine. But this has always been not just us, not just about us, not even just about Europe. This has been, in many ways, a global effort. We have more than 50 countries who have been supporting Ukraine. And I believe, based on everything I'm hearing, we'll continue to do that. And what we're determined to do in the remainder of this administration is to do everything possible to ensure that Ukraine has what it needs to be able, as I said, to fight through 2025 if necessary, or if there's a negotiation, to be able to negotiate from a position of strength. And much of what we're doing now, working in close coordination with allies and partners, including through the G7, is on these different lines of effort to make sure that we're moving out and moving ahead. Again, money, munitions, mobilized forces, and the training and support that they need. All of this we've been working, we'll continue to work over the coming weeks so that Ukraine is on a clear trajectory. And I'm convinced by everything I've heard that European support beyond Europe will remain strong. And I'm hopeful that the United States will also continue the efforts we've made. Final thing on this. I've never seen a better example of burden sharing in my 32 years of doing this. The United States has made significant investments in supporting Ukraine, about $100 billion over the last 2.5 years, but our partners and allies around the world have contributed more than that, close to $150 billion. And of course, the investments we've made.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.